Your own kidneys are conspiring to kill you right now. You are holding a cup of warm yellow fluid, thinking it is a second chance, but you are wrong because that liquid is a concentrated chemical weapon. Drinking it straight is not survival, it is suicide by internal organ failure. You are 70% water, yet you are dying of thirst in a dried-out world, and the only moisture left is trapped inside your bladder along with every toxin your body tried to reject. I am going to teach you how to hack the laws of thermodynamics to turn that toxic waste into pure, life-saving hydration using nothing but trash and fire. The cold logic of physics is the only God left in this wasteland, and today, we are going to pray to it. The physiological trap of the doomsday myth. The silence of the apocalypse is the loudest sound you will ever hear. The grid is down, the reservoirs are drained or poisoned with fallout, and the frantic chaos of the first 48 hours has settled into a dull, aching thirst that feels like swallowing razor blades. You have exhausted every bottle on the shelf and every puddle in the street. You look at the corner of the room where you relieved yourself hours ago, and your desperate brain starts whispering a dangerous lie that has killed more survivors than the radiation ever could. The lie is that hydration is just fluid, and any fluid will do. This is biologically false. Your body is a biological machine calibrated to a precise salinity, and disrupting that balance is fatal. When you drink raw urine, you are not rehydrating. You are introjecting a hypertonic solution loaded with urea, creatinine, dissolved ammonia, and potassium. The mechanism of death here is osmosis. Because the fluid in your stomach is saltier than the fluid in your cells, physics dictates that water must move from a low concentration of solute to a high concentration. This means drinking raw urine literally sucks the remaining fresh water out of your body cells to dilute the poison you just swallowed. You are dehydrating yourself at a cellular level to process the waste, accelerating the timeline of your death while adding nausea, delirium, and organ failure to your list of problems. The Army Field Manual condemns this practice not out of squeamishness, but out of medical certainty. The toxicity of urine doubles with every cycle. If you drink it, urinate it out, and drink it again, you are refining a poison sludge inside your own bloodstream. Eventually, the concentration of nitrogenous waste hits a critical threshold, leading to uremic poisoning. Your brain swells, your hands shake, and hallucinations set in right before your heart stops from potassium overdose. But while biological filtration has failed you, thermal physics offers a backdoor. We are going to bypass biology entirely. We are going to strip the water molecules away from the poison using phase change. But before we light the fire, you need to understand that dehydration is already making you stupid, and your first enemy is your own degrading mind. The thermodynamics of distillation. The universe operates on rules that do not change just because civilization has collapsed. The specific rule we are exploiting today is the difference in boiling points between volatile water and heavy solids. This is the science of distillation. In a laboratory, this requires glass beakers and Bunsen burners, but in the ruins of the old world, it requires a soup can and an understanding of energy transfer. Distillation is a process of separation based on volatility. Water boils and turns into vapor at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. The toxins in your urine, specifically the salts, urea, and heavy metals, do not boil at this temperature. They require significantly higher heat to vaporize, or they simply decompose into solids. This physical gap is your window of survival. By applying thermal energy to the urine, you excite the water molecules until they break their liquid bonds and shoot upward as steam. The heavy toxic molecules do not have enough energy to escape the liquid surface, so they remain trapped in the bottom of the container. The steam that rises is pure water vapor. It is chemically identical to the steam rising from a pristine mountain spring or a nuclear cooling tower. It carries no bacteria because the heat has denatured their proteins and destroyed their cell walls. It carries no salt because salt cannot exist as a gas at these temperatures. It is ghost water floating in the air, completely separated from the filth it once swam in. The challenge is not getting the water out of the urine. The challenge is catching that ghost and forcing it back into a liquid state before it escapes into the atmosphere. This is where the concept of condensation comes into play. You must rob the steam of its thermal energy by introducing a cold surface, causing the gas to collapse back into liquid droplets that you can collect and drink. Scavenging the vapor trap. You do not need a degree in engineering to build a still, but you do need to be observant of the trash around you. The perfect survival still requires 3 components: a boiler, a condenser, and a collector. In a suburban ruin, your boiler is likely a metal pot, a discarded coffee can, or even a heavy-duty ammunition tin. The material must have high thermal conductivity, like aluminum or steel, to transfer the heat from your fire into the liquid efficiently. Do not use galvanized metal if you can avoid it, as zinc fumes can add a new layer of toxicity to your day. But in a life or death scenario, you work with what you have. Pour the urine into this boiler, do not fill it to the brim. You need headspace for the steam to form and circulate without bubbling the toxic liquid up so high that it splashes onto your collection surface. Splashing is the enemy. Even a single drop of raw urine contaminating your clean water renders the entire batch dangerous. You are looking for a gentle boil, not a violent eruption. This requires managing your fire carefully, a skill that demands practice. The condenser is the critical piece of geometry. You need a lid or a sheet of material that can cover the boiler but is angled downward toward a collection point. A piece of glass from a broken window is excellent because it allows you to see the process, but a metal hubcap, a flat stone, or even heavy-duty aluminum foil can work. The key is surface area and temperature differential. The top of the lid must be kept cooler than the steam rising beneath it. In a cold environment, the ambient air might be enough, but to maximize efficiency, you should place snow, cold water, or even wet rags on top of the lid. This steals the heat from the steam hitting the underside, forcing it to condense rapidly into heavy droplets. Gravity then pulls those droplets down the slope of the angled lid, guiding them to the center or the edge, depending on your setup. The architecture of the flame. Fire is your engine, but fuel is your currency. In a survival situation, calories are time, and gathering wood or fuel costs calories. You cannot afford to burn a massive bonfire just to purify a cup of water. You must construct a fire that focuses heat directly onto the bottom of your boiler with minimal waste. This is where the principle of convection comes into play. You want to shield your fire from the wind, which steals heat, and channel the hot air upward against your vessel. Dig a small trench or build a ring of stones to contain the thermal energy. If you are scavenging in an urban environment, a hobo stove made from a perforated metal trash can or a large tin drilled with air holes creates a chimney effect that burns fuel efficiently and directs the heat exactly where you need it. You are looking for a sustained simmer. A rolling boil that causes the liquid to churn violently increases the risk of microscopic droplets of dirty liquid being ejected into the steam flow, a process known as entrainment. You want the water to leave the surface as gas, not as spray. While you tend the flame, you must construct the internal architecture of the pot. The most common bushcraft improvisation is the floating bowl or the pedestal method. Place a clean, empty cup in the center of your pot of urine. It needs to be heavy enough not to float around, so you might need to weigh it down with a clean rock. If the urine level is too high, raise the cup on a stone pedestal or a bed of scrap metal so the rim of the cup is well above the surface of the waste liquid. The angled lid goes over the entire setup. The lowest point of the lid, the drip point, must be positioned directly over the mouth of the clean cup. The steam rises, hits the lid, runs down the slope, and drips into the cup. It is a closed loop of hydrological salvation. The deadly chemistry of residue. As the water boils off, the volume of liquid in your main pot decreases, but the amount of waste remains the same. This means the concentration of toxins in the boiling liquid is skyrocketing. You are essentially creating a thick, noxious sludge of urea and salts. This residue is dangerous. It is corrosive and biologically hazardous. Do not let the pot boil dry. If you do, the solid residue will burn, releasing toxic smoke and destroying your container. Stop the process while there is still liquid left in the bottom. This bitter end is waste. Discard it far away from your shelter. The smell will be pungent, essentially concentrated ammonia, and it can attract predators or simply make your living area uninhabitable. The handling of this sludge requires discipline. If you spill it on your hands, wash it off immediately, even if that means sacrificing some of your precious water or scrubbing with sand. Hygiene is the first casualty of the apocalypse, but infection is the final one. Once the system has cooled, you remove the lid carefully. Do not let the condensation on the outside of the lid, which might be contaminated by smoke or dirty hands, drip into your clean cup. Lift the cup out. The water inside should be crystal clear. It should be warm, perhaps hot. But before you drink, you must perform the sensory safety check. Your nose is an evolutionary alarm system designed to detect rot and poison. Sensory diagnostics and quality control. Bring the cup to your nose and inhale gently. It should smell like nothing. It should smell like the inside of a cloud. If you catch a whiff of ammonia or the distinct acrid tang of urine, the process failed. You either boiled it too violently and splashed dirty liquid into the cup, or your seal was not tight enough and the steam escaped while untreated vapor entered. Do not drink failed batches. Pour it back into the boiler and start again. This is a game of patience, and impatience is fatal. If the smell test passes, take a small sip. Distilled water tastes flat because it lacks the minerals and dissolved oxygen we are used to in tap or spring water. This flatness is the taste of purity. It is actually too pure. Without electrolytes, it does not hydrate you as efficiently as water with a pinch of salt. But in this moment, it is life. If you have a clean source of salt, not the toxic residue you just separated, but actual table salt, adding a tiny pinch helps your body absorb the fluid better. But do not overthink the chemistry needed for absorption right now. Just get the water into your system. The psychological boost of creating clean water impacts your chances of survival as much as the hydration itself. Survival is a mental game. Panic burns calories. Despair shuts down the will to act. By successfully manipulating the physical world to sustain your life, you are proving to your primitive brain that you are not a victim of the environment, but a master of it. You have turned the most repulsive substance imaginable into a resource. This is alchemy. It transforms your mindset from a passive prey animal waiting to die into an active agent of your own survival. Alternative methodologies, the solar still. There will be times when fire is impossible. Perhaps you are hiding and smoke will give away your position to raiders. Perhaps there is no fuel. Perhaps the wind is too high. In these moments, you must switch energy sources from combustion to radiation. You will use the sun. The physics remain the same, phase change and condensation, but the timeline extends from minutes to hours. You must construct a solar pit still. Dig a hole in the ground roughly 3 feet across and 2 feet deep. Place a collection container in the center of the hole. Now, instead of pouring urine into a pot, you can urinate into the soil around the container, or pour the urine into a trench dug around the cup. Cover the entire hole with a sheet of clear plastic. A trash bag, a tarp, or a poncho works, provided light can pass through it or heat can build up beneath it. Anchor the edges of the plastic with rocks and dirt to create an airtight seal. Place a small stone in the center of the plastic right above your cup, creating an inverted cone shape. The greenhouse effect takes over. The sun's shortwave radiation passes through the plastic and heats the soil and the urine. The liquid evaporates, becoming water vapor. This vapor rises, hits the underside of the plastic, which is cooled by the outside air, and condenses. Gravity pulls the droplets down to the weighted center point, where they drip into your cup. This process is slow. It creates a humid microclimate inside the hole. It extracts moisture not just from the urine, but from the soil itself. It is a passive system. You can set up 3 or 4 of these around your camp and generate liters of water a day without burning a single twig. It is stealthy, silent, and based entirely on solar geometry. The myth of plastic and chemical leaching. A common fear in survival circles involves the leaching of chemicals from plastic containers or makeshift solar still liners. In a civilized world, we worry about microplastics and BPA. In the wasteland, these are luxury worries. You are dying of acute dehydration. The long-term carcinogenic effects of drinking water condensed on a trash bag are irrelevant when your kidneys are shutting down in 24 hours. Survival is about prioritizing immediate threats over theoretical future ones. Do not let perfectionism kill you. If the choice is between dehydration and water that might have a few molecules of plastic in it, you drink the plastic. However, be wary of containers that held volatile chemicals. A gas can, a pesticidal sprayer, or a bottle of antifreeze cannot be used as a boiler or a collector. Distillation can purify water, but it can also co-distill other volatile chemicals. If you boil urine in a container that effectively held gasoline, the gasoline fumes will vaporize, condense, and mix with your water, creating a poisonous cocktail. You must scrutinize your scavenging sites. Smell every container. If it smells like chemicals, discard it. If it smells like rancid food, it can be scrubbed. Biological contaminants are killed by heat. Chemical contaminants are often liberated by it. The continuous cycle of hydration. Once you have mastered the technique, you must integrate it into your daily routine. You are now a closed-loop system. Every time you urinate, you are not expelling waste. You are depositing raw material for tomorrow's water supply. This requires a shift in how you view your own body. You are not just a consumer of resources, you are a processor. But this loop is not perfectly efficient. You lose water through sweat, respiration, and the sludge residue you discard. You cannot survive on recycled urine forever. The laws of thermodynamics include entropy. You are losing energy and mass over time. This technique is a bridge. It keeps you alive long enough to walk out of the fallout zone. It buys you the 3 or 4 days you need to find a well, a stream, or a stockpile of canned peaches. You must calculate your exertion levels carefully. Every drop of sweat is water that did not go into your bladder, water that cannot be recycled. In this scenario, laziness is a virtue. Move slowly. Keep your mouth shut to retain moisture in your breath. Work on your still only during the cooler parts of the day if you are using fire, or set up your solar stills at dawn. The cold truth is that most people in this scenario die not because the environment is impossible, but because they panic and make bad decisions. They drink the raw urine because they are in pain and want immediate relief. They ignore the physics. They give in to the animal instinct to consume whatever is wet. By forcing yourself to build a still, to wait for the boil, to watch the drip, you are imposing order on chaos. You are engaging your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that plans and reasons. That is what keeps you alive. Final calibration and the will to live. You have the blueprint now. You understand that heat separates the lethal from the vital. You know that a soup can and a piece of glass are more valuable than gold bars in a world without water. But knowledge in a vacuum is useless. The next time you are thirsty, look at the water in your glass and imagine the complex infrastructure that put it there. Now imagine that infrastructure is gone. Could you build it again with garbage? The ability to create drinkable water from your own waste is the ultimate declaration of independence from the system. It means that as long as you have life, you have the potential to sustain life. The process is ugly. It smells. It is tedious. It requires staring at a dripping piece of plastic while your throat screams for relief. But that drip is the rhythm of survival. Drip, drip, drip. Each one is a minute of life you just stole back from the reaper. Do not let the disgust stop you. The yuck factor is a luxury of a society that has faucets. You do not live in that society anymore. You live in a world where biology is the enemy and physics is the savior. So, when the taps run dry and the sky turns gray, do not look for a rescue team. Look for a can. Look for a fire. Look inward, quite literally, for the resources you need. You are a walking water filtration plant. You just need to turn the machinery on. When the world ends, the people who wait for rain will die. The people who know how to make it will inherit what is left. Now go find a container. You have work to do.